It's like a walking, talking sat-nav, basically. So that's how you could describe him.
He's a courier, so every day could be different. And he enjoyed it, and I did as well. I met Ron when I started working in a little cafe bar, like a truck stop thing. He was very pleasant every time he came in, and noticed him. I was just talking, laugh and joke. He was a really nice person.
On the day of the accident, I remember speaking to him at 12:30, which is my dinner break, and rung him up and wished him happy birthday, and he was full of life as he normally is. He was like, yeah, I'll see you later. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll see you later, Dad.
We were actually going to make it sound like we weren't bothered and just pretend that, oh, is it your birthday kind of thing. So it didn't really, the atmosphere was really good, and obviously we were all happy and just waiting for him to turn up, really.
It was a Friday evening. It was about an hour after peak traffic time. It was on a main road outside Chester. The circumstances was a cattle wagon that was fully laden with 20 cattle, I think. Went onto the wrong side of the road and hit Ford Transit that was being driven by Ron Birch.
We sat waiting for him, and then for about 20 past 8 I thought, well, he's not back. I thought, well, why didn't he ring me? Because I know if he was going to be later than what he'd said, he would have rang me. Eventually, when it come to 11:30, I said, I'm going to go to the police station, so something's happened. I didn't know what, but Jamie turned around and said, well, no, you're not, I'll go. And Jamie went.
The transit had been hit at the front, just to the left of the Ford badge, meaning that basically the driver's side had taken the brunt of the impact.
We were immediately directed to the van driver as being the most serious casualty. As we approached him, we were told that he'd just stopped breathing as we pulled up on scene.
And what was his response to the drugs and resuscitation as he went to hospital?
There was no response at all on the way to hospital.
I really just didn't feel like it was happening. You just keep thinking it's a bad dream. I'm going to wake up in a minute, this isn't happening. So he'd driven for 30 years of his life, and maybe he'd been lucky up to then. But, you do think it could happen, but you don't think it ever will.
They sat me down and said, no easy way to tell you this, but obviously he has been killed in a fatal road accident on the A51 involving him in a cattle wagon. My instant reaction was like, it was just gravity took over. It was horrible. It was just everything went out of me, really.
We went in there to identify him, which was pretty hard. And I wanted to sort of like to go and kiss him goodbye, but because of his injuries, I know it sounds really silly, but I didn't want to hurt him. So I just couldn't do it at the time, which is something I now regret.
The witnesses were all very common in what they were saying. The cattle wagon was weaving in the road, in and out of its lane. Quite clearly the driver was distracted in some way or impaired in some way and wasn't driving correctly in its lane, and this caused some concern for the witnesses. His account was that he hadn't done anything wrong at all. He was quite clearly in his lane. He couldn't give any reason as to why the collision occurred.
It emerged once the blood of the lorry driver had been analysed that he'd taken cannabis and amphetamines.
At the time I wasn't aware that the chap was under the influence of drugs. I mean, I've since found out that he was under the influence of drugs. Obviously that makes it 10 times worse because it's no longer an accident. The fact that he was driving a HGV, the consequences are horrendous. An HGV on the road like that.
This driver who was responsible for this collision was clearly impaired. He went onto the wrong side of the road, and he in a heavy goods vehicle he ripped in half a Ford Transit van, which killed the father of two boys who were in their early 20s, and also the loving husband of his wife Fiona. He really was the centre figure of the family, there's no doubt about that.
I was disgusted, absolutely disgusted. It was just, I just felt cheated, you know. The guy had been, you know, my dad who'd do anything for anybody, had been taken away through just idiocy, really.
If the test hadn't been done in Ron's accident, the driver would have walked away with fine and points on his licence.
I think going forward as a family, I think we've kind of, we ain't over Dad. We'll never get over Dad. We'll always miss him. Every day you sort of think, wish he was still here, really.
The impact has been horrendous. I say he wasn't just my husband, he was my best friend, my cellmate. So, and I just exist instead of living, you know. Taking drugs, the same as anything, it will impair your driving. And people that take them and drive probably been lucky so far and got away with things. But there's always a time when they're not going to get away with things. And all right, we can't stop people taking drugs, but we can ask them not to take drugs and drive.